morning.
All systems
Yeah,
go.
all systems go. That's right. Even though we're not in Houston. Good morning. Or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. If you're watching this at night or in the morning, it's a good day, I'm sure, because Red O'Loughlin's in the house. I'm Marion LaSalle, and this is Russ Johns, and we are marketing ideas that work on the Future Media TV channel. And today we have a special guest who we both absolutely love, Red O'Loughlin. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's a Navy officer, retired. And we've got a lot of questions for him because he is busy writing books and doing things in the community that everyone should know about. Everybody should know about Red. Right, Russ?
Yep, absolutely. A wealth of knowledge. Always. I always learn something when I'm around Red.
Yes, and it's always good. So good morning, Red. How are you?
Excellent as always.
Good.
Good morning, Marion. Good morning, Russ.
Good morning. Good morning.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became an author?
Yes, I'm the oldest of 9 kids, and where my mom would pick up a kid everywhere my dad was stationed in the military, I picked up other things, college degrees and certifications and this and that. And over time, I found out that I was just writing. I've written well over 1,000 documents, probably much more than that. And I enjoy writing. And when I got my invitation to retire early from the last company that I was working for, I decided I didn't want to work for anybody else. So I started my own company, MRO Global LLC or LLC. And I ended up really in the speaking world to start with. And then about 5 years ago, I wrote my first book in conjunction with my mentor at the time. And I was going around doing his events, not doing his events, but I was part of his events. And I would sell my books and CDs and things at the back of the room. And then I wrote another book after that. These two were in basically the personal growth, self-improvement end of things. And then I kind of transitioned a little bit. In that transition time, I co-wrote a book with Jim Rohn and Mark Victor Hansen, one of those ones where everybody in the world signs up, and that was an interesting experience. And then I wrote my first book on health and wellness because I found that even though I loved the self-improvement, personal growth end of things, my real passion was in the health and wellness industry from a perspective of cause and effect. One of my specialties in the last company I worked for was why do things fail? And you have to get down to about 7 or 8 levels of why. Why did this happen? Well, why did that happen? Okay, fine. Well, why did that happen? And I do the same kind of thing, except on a human body, you get down to the cellular level and you look for what is happening biochemically to find out that cause and effect relationship. And so that's the perspective that I bring things, is what causes things to happen. If you treat symptoms, you'll always treat symptoms. You can't fix something by treating a symptom. And so I research and I blog, I write, I speak on what can help people treat the actual cause of a problem, and not from a prescription medicine. I'm not a medical doctor. I got 5 degrees, but none of them are in medicine. But I have the ability to take something very complex and make it fairly understandable.
That's always a good thing to do. I know Russ and I talk about this a lot in the technology industry. People, they have no idea what we're talking about. And I've learned over the years to bring it down to a level, not that they're, it's bad or good. It's just who can understand what we're talking about. If you're not in it.
Every industry has their vocabulary, right?
Their acronyms, their short, and in the health industry, it's the same thing. And when I find something that's a really long word, I'll like phosphatidylserine is a phospholipid in the body. I'll just put it PS, because you don't have to keep repeating that long word each time, but it's there for somebody to go look it up if they need to go buy something. But as far as the conversation goes, if I'm in a speaking situation or in a situation like this, I would mention it once or twice, but then I would just automatically go to, okay, let's talk about PS. And we go from there because it's just a lot easier to do that.
Right. One of the best classes I ever took in college was the origin of words, Latin and Greek. And
You're right.
And once you start understanding how a word was created or where it came from, and you understand its origin, it allows you to think through other words and say, okay, well, and I'm sure that you've discovered that in the medical, vocabulary is, there are certain things that are consistent throughout the industry.
Cardio, neural, you just add on to that basic word.
Yeah, it goes back to basic words. So communication is key in that industry, in the medical industry, I have to believe. And how has that impacted you in writing, Red? In writing your articles and your books and your research?
Well, I know that people have a tendency, when you see a long word, you just stop. It's just one of those things. So they need the long word if they want to go look up something themselves. And as I said, I abbreviate it, or I try to make it a little bit easier to understand. And so from my perspective, I can understand the word. I look at the chemical, I look at whatever the function is, and it's generally easy for me to follow. Then I have to think to myself, okay, how can I explain that to somebody else without having a daze over their face? And that's part of the niche that I'm in, is when I get into the cause and effect, what is the easiest way for somebody to understand exactly what I'm trying to get across? So if I'm talking about trying to build stronger bones, and I'm talking about the different chemicals that are required to get there, sometimes it's just as easy to say, okay, you need to eat more green vegetables in order to get this calcium or magnesium, rather than get into strictly the chemicals themselves. So there are ways that I use when I know that it's a difficult topic.
Analogies are always good, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Red and Russ and I used to belong to a networking group, and Red came to me one day and said, Marion, I've been researching this really cool idea about reputation and marketing and management and all this. He said, I really want you to look at it. And he didn't leave it alone. I said, yeah, when I get around to it. And he goes, no, I really need you to read this. Like 3 times he said that. And I finally went, okay, he really wants me to read this. So I did. And I was so fascinated by what research he came up with that Red and I decided to give a presentation in front of the group. And that grew. People loved the presentation so much, and it worked so well that we decided to go out and speak about it in the community. So banks would have us come in, and ABWA, which means American Business Women's Association, and public speakers and speaker co-op, and all these places started asking us to speak. And I just found it fascinating the way your brain works about research. So you find something that's interesting, and then you dig into it to find out what's behind it, what's causing it, right? What's causing this
Absolutely.
to happen. So,
and if you don't know the cause, you can't fix the problem.
Right.
And that reputation marketing was one of those where the cause affects your reputation, and you may never know about it.
That's right. So this brings me to the question that I have for you right now. What do you find is working in marketing for your books? Now, I know you've written a lot of books, and they're really good. And I know you just came out with one that we can find on Amazon. How are you marketing those?
My latest book is Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging, How to Live to 100 Years of Age with the Body of a Healthy 50-year-old and the Mind of a 25-year-old. And I'll look at the 2 basic causes of aging and what you can do to accelerate the aging process or decelerate it. And I basically lay it out and say, if you do this, you're going to age faster. If you want to do this, you can age slower. And the book is a fairly long book. I'm transitioning it right now from Kindle to Amazon for a physical book. And it's been an interesting evolution. But on the marketing side of things, you have a choice of a Kindle book, a Barnes & Noble book, an iBookstore book, and a physical book. Each one of those books, upon release, can generate a press release. And so now, instead of just having one press release for an individual book, every time you put it out on a new platform, you should have a press release that says, this new book is now available at Barnes & Noble or on iBookstore. And sometimes you can put the thing out yourself, but if you want to pay $5 and go to Fiverr.com That's five as in five, FIVERR.com. For $5, they'll post your press release on a couple dozen different places. And so it's a much more effective way of utilizing your time and getting that same information out. On the social media aspect, there's obviously a lot of places to do it. My particular demographic for my audience is baby boomers. So I have to look for where baby boomers are at. They're not going to be on Snapchat. They're going to be on Facebook. They're going to be on other Instagram. They're going to be on Pinterest. So I have to look at where my demographic of my audience is at in order to go to that particular social media. And if you're using that social media, then you need to make sure your profile is up to date as best as possible. In my particular niche, since I'm in health and wellness, I also have a couple other areas that I can go to. LinkedIn has a LinkedIn/Pulse /Pulse. I can put basically a blog entry in there, and that gets to a totally different audience than my Facebook audience. I believe it's medium.com is another one that are two very good high authority kinds of sites that you can get your information out to a much larger audience.
Brett, I have to slow you down. You are just a wealth of knowledge here. Okay, I have to slow you down a little bit. I can't keep up. I'm like, wait a minute. So you wrote your book, and now you decided you were going to market it. What was the first thing that you did?
The first thing I did was announce it on Facebook, because that's the medium that I probably use more than anything else.
Okay.
Within that group, within that Facebook, I have a few different author groups. I believe Russ is a member of at least one of them. And what I do is I go to fellow authors, and as I get very near the end, I may throw out 3 or 4 different covers and say which cover makes sense. Or maybe a little bit earlier, I'm saying I'm looking for a title. Which one of these 3 or 4 makes sense? And so I use other authors and kind of kibitz a little bit to say, well, does the green one look better than the red one? Does the blue one look better than the green one? And go through the process of vetting the book cover and the title with people who are already in that industry. And then as I get very close to the end, I invite several, maybe a dozen, 2 dozen people over to my house, and I have them sit down, randomly give them different chapters in the book, apply them with wine and food, and allow them to read and circle anything that they don't understand, because I want to make sure that the actual content is usable. And so if they read something and they don't understand it, they circle a paragraph and I rewrite it. So I have from both ends of the content and from the viewing of the title, basically the cover image. And then at that point in time, I cite, this is it, and then I lock it in. Kindle is probably the easiest one to get into. And I can create a book in Kindle in no time at all. Some of the other ones are just a little more difficult, not much, just different.
Just different.
And so when you're looking at the writing part of it, deciding to write the book seems like the most monumental. Actually, writing it is not that bad, but marketing is by far exponentially more difficult than all of them, because again, it's what are you trying to do with the book? And if you want to become an authority, that's different than you want to establish, use it as like Tracy Haynes uses it as a business card. He establishes his authority rather than give you a business card, he gives you a book. And so it puts you in a different world when you're establishing credibility from that perspective. So you have to know what your market audience is, who is your niche, who are you going to, and then what is the best platform to use marketing to get you to that niche. I do a lot of speaking deals and like ABWA, but also with AARP and other baby boomer type of organizations. And so I have to make sure that I get to the right audience. I may go to a bank to speak, but there may only be 2 or 3 people there that are over 50 that have a real interest in the topic that I'm talking about. But if I go to an AARP, everybody there has an interest in what I am talking about. So you have to get your message out to the largest audience with the amount of time that you have. So let me tell you a little secret. Let me tell you a little secret that I learned basically within the last couple of weeks, and I'm in the process of trying to develop for my next book.
Secret. Everybody listening?
Yes, this is really neat. let's say that you have a book. Let's say, Marion, you have a book. Russ, you have a book. There are outside non-competing entities that if they were a sponsor in your book, that you could charge a certain fee for them to have one page of their company within your book. Let's say that from my aging perspective, I may want to use, let's say, an attorney, trust and probate estates. Let's say I may want to use a spa, a vacation travel. In other words, I look at the other industries that support the aging baby boomers, and I approach them with, okay, I will give you one page in my book, and I will charge a certain fee, and I will give them a discount on buying books, so they can recoup their loss if they want to sell the book at full retail, or they just want to use it as a marketing tool within their business. But now I've already got some money up front before the book has ever left the printer, because as soon as my book's available, it may be, let's say it's a $20 book. I can, depending on how many pages it is and how many I order, I may be able to get the book for $5 or less. And now I can take that book I already have sold. Let's say I sell an advertisement for $300 a page. If I get
Are you having
10
trouble
people
hearing him,
to
Russ?
buy in.
Yeah, his audio is breaking up, Red. Your audio is breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me any better now if I get a little closer to
I don't
them?
think it's that we can't hear you. It's that your internet is maybe a little choppy. Not really sure. If you could just repeat that last bit. You said if you charge $300.
Let's say you charge $300 a page to advertise in your book, and those people are servicing the same industry you are, but they're not a direct competitor of the author. You can set whatever price you want, and let's just take 300 as a round number. Then if you sell 10 of these, they're in the back of the book. You take that part as resources that I trust, and now the person reading the book can go back there and they may identify with 3 or 4 or 5 of these different individual companies that service that demographic. And now you have $3,000 for that one book before it really and truly even goes to print. So now you have some front end money in order to help sell your book. I can buy the books at maybe a third, fourth, or a fifth of what the market price is. So I can take and make a little bit. Let's say I get the book for $4. I can take and sell it to them for $10. It's a $20 book. They can recoup theirs if they want to order a bunch of books and sell them at whatever price. It doesn't take very many books to make up $300. Or they can give them away as part of their marketing goodwill program. And I had never heard about this, and in most of the books that I read, I don't see any of these sponsorships at the end. But it makes all the sense in the world to take advantage of I don't want another author in there. I don't want to have somebody who's competing with me directly, but somebody who's an outside industry who is using that same demographic, and let them come in, and I let them piggyback off of my efforts. Since I'm in the local Sugar Land, Missouri City, Houston area, those are the merchants that I'm going to be going to mostly, because that's where I'm going to be speaking and selling my books. And so I end up with local people that can use it much more than, say, a national one.
So
Does that make sense?
I'm not quite crystal clear, Red, because I missed some of the audio. So I want to recap. So what you're doing is you're looking at other industries that are parallel with your market, your target market, your demographic, and you're allowing them to use your book for their own marketing purposes and engagement with their audience. And that is beneficial to both of you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So with that's I think a brilliant strategy. And I hope everybody understands what we're saying here is that this overall strategy is, I have a product that I can share with somebody else that is in the same demographic and dealing with the same clientele, that we can automatically enlarge our audience by using business partners associates in the business and having them share our product, and we in turn can share their product, which I
Correct.
think you do.
I'm putting them in a special section of the book, the last chapter, resources that I trust. And these are people that I know who are in the business, and they're generally local, because I don't want to be advertising somebody from California and I'm in the Houston market, because there's not a whole lot of connection there. Unless, let's say it's a retirement home,
Right.
and they have a team across the country. That would be a situation where somebody in the Houston market and somebody in the California market could benefit. But if I'm looking at a local attorney, maybe they have offices all over, I don't know, but at least I'm looking for somebody that's in this local area. But the big issue up front is you have to get somebody who is already advertising, somebody who has an advertising budget. Because if you approach somebody who doesn't do this, they're somewhat reluctant. They don't have the budget for it. They haven't done it before. But if you approach a person who advertises all the time, then that's a different animal, because they're already in the business of advertising, and they have that mindset that will allow them to support that kind of thing. And it opens the door to them.
Absolutely.
I love
Marion,
it.
have you used this strategy before?
I have never used this strategy before, but I totally get it. And we've got some comments on the sidebar. Steve says, this is like product placement in the movies. I mean, this isn't something new, right? This is something that we're just now catching on with the book industry. So
it's exactly like having a bottle of Coca-Cola in the shelf behind the author.
Right. That's right.
Character. It's exactly product placement. Yes.
Or have you ever driven a Subaru?
That's a good one. Good one there, Russ. Did they pay you to put that mug in front of us?
My son works for Subaru, so.
Oh, okay.
Between my son and I, we've owned 5, so. Actually 6, I think, so.
So yes, I love recapping, as Russ just said. So we've talked about where you're going to market. You got to find out who your audience is. Like Red is an author, so his audience is baby boomers and people over the age of 50, you would say, probably. So he is finding that press releases and going to groups that have older people in them,
similar audience.
That is where he's getting the most bang. Can you still go to a regular networking opportunity or whatever? Yes. But if you want to get more bang for your buck, you want to go where your audience is. So groups on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Also, you get the money. You get cash up front to help that book production, to get that out to the people that you need to get to. If you're paying everything yourself, that's one part of it. But if you can get other people's money to help you get started, that's a better part of it.
Right. Hey, I have another question too, Red. Earlier you talked about your review parties where everybody's going through that. Do you ever discover that through that process, another audience may appear in, or another demographic or target market, like doctors or, people in the medical industry? Because I know you write on a very wide group of subjects. However, they're all kind of related with health and wellness, right? And aging.
They're all health and wellness, yes. The problem I have in the medical community is most of them are not trained in nutrition. They have a certain legal protocol that in order to fix their problems, they treat symptoms. And as such, the only thing they can do is surgery, prescription medicine, or some other medical protocol. I don't deal in those areas whatsoever. So even though a solution for me might be to stop eating wheat because it affects your gut and does this and this and this and this, that's not something they can recommend, because they can't legally stand behind that if called upon in front of the court system. So they have a different process. I would love to be able to do that, but I cannot. But to answer your question more directly, I do get people every so often that says, I would love to have you come to my company and talk about this. So I do get those bits and pieces that come in, because I don't always have the same people come to my house. I try to mix it up, so I have people that are totally different fields that generally don't know each other.
Right.
And are available to come in and just read something that, I just need a different set of eyes, a different brain looking at this and telling me, does this make sense? Can I understand
Right,
it?
right. That's brilliant. I love that. I love that idea. So where were you?
So it cost me a few bucks. It cost me a few bucks for wine, cheese, and whatever, but you get a lot of benefit out of it because you had 20 or 30 sets of eyes looking at your product to make sure it's readable. The content is
Right.
acceptable. Yeah, it to me, that's my final. Well, it's not my final one, but it's near
That's
my
great.
final check.
I have one question. You kind of glossed over it real fast, and you talked about doing press releases on Fiverr. Can you talk about that?
For those who are not aware of Fiverr, they charge $5 and they do a whole lot of. But sunshine is just really coming.
I
right
know,
through
I
my
can
window.
hardly
I'm almost
see you.
asleep to death.
I'm like, wow, Red, you're
Hang on
no
one
longer
second.
red, you're white. You're white, buddy.
Anyway, I keep watching my face get lighter and lighter and lighter, and I have an open window right next to my desk, and the sky is getting.
Well, we've had so much weather here in Houston that
Marilyn, you're on TV.
Hi, Marilyn.
But getting back to the press release, Fiverr.com for $5. That's where I get my book covers designed for $5. For a lot of different functions, for it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If I want to get a photo resized so I could take it from a normal book size cover down to a stamp size cover so I can put it on something, they do things for $5. And one of the things they do is they'll take press releases, either the ones you create or they'll help create their own from their format. You just fill in the blanks, and they'll send them out to all the different places that press releases need to go. The same thing with videos. If you have a YouTube video, well, there's another 20 different places out there that videos go in the world. For $5, they will send your video out to wherever it needs to go. Now, some of them will charge a little bit more because they do slightly different things. You know, I just did a Create Space book cover because they're doing the front cover, the back cover, and the spine. Generally, that's not $5, it's $10 or a little bit more because they're doing 2 or 3 times the work rather than a single cover on the front for, say, Kindle. So depending on what it is, yeah, most things are $5. But if you get a really competent person, they know their value, they're going to charge you $10 or maybe a little bit more. But even at that case, it's still worth the time to do it because there's just a lot of things that you can do with your time when you're not sitting there working with somebody else. The first book cover I ever had somebody help me design cost me $250, and I really wasn't as thrilled with it. But if I get a book cover I don't like, I don't pay for it. Simple as that. I have to have user satisfaction on Fiverr. If you don't have that, you don't pay. But I can take and hire 4 different designers, $5 a piece. I get 4 book covers. I show them on Facebook and say, which one do you like the best? And so it's not a single person that I get to review my product. I get an audience of, in this particular case, I think my 500 words is 6,000 plus authors. Now, obviously, not all of them are looking at it at the same time, but I'll at least have 100 different people looking at that particular book cover and voicing an opinion. So it's part of the marketing scheme to get some feedback from the audience, the demographic, or people who are interested in that field, so that you have something usable that you as an author can take to the bank.
I understand.
Make sense?
Red, this half an hour just flew by. I mean, I can't believe it's been 30 minutes already.
wow.
We have to have you back. I just can't take it. We have to have you back really soon.
Yeah, we need nuggets of knowledge.
We just barely scratched the surface. So thank you for joining us today. This is Future Media TV, and we are here every Tuesday and Thursday from 8:30 to 9 a.m. So be sure and come back and join us. Sign up if you'd like to be a guest on our show. We'd love to have you. Sign up at futuremediaassociation.com. And I want to say, if you have any last words, please let us know. Russ, do you have any last questions or words that you want to share?
As always, it's a pleasure, and we'd love to have you share this, message. Red's a wealth of knowledge, and it's worth sharing. It's worth listening to again. So all the replays are going to be up on Future Media Association, on Future Media TV. There's a link there you can go to. And as always, we're here every Tuesday Thursday mornings, 8:30 Central Time, and always welcome to answer your questions and check in.
Thank you. Thanks, Red.
Thanks, Red.
Thank
Really
you very
appreciate it.
much. Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Bye.